All right, welcome back. You pressed play once again here on the Gill Athletics Connections Podcast. So grateful, so humbled to be your host, Mike Cunningham here, National Business Development Manager for Gill Athletics and host of this really fun podcast. Sometimes I have to take a step back and realize, we're on our fifth season here. It's 2024. This started January of 2020. This is episode, I don't know, 270 something, maybe 280th at this point. Just so humbled to sit down with coaches, men and women around the country, around the world, and talk about, how they got into coaching, how they got into this great sport, and really uplift and honor, highlight the positive impact that they make on young people today. It's really one of my favorite things of my job. It's my real passion here. And so just super excited to be able to share that with you and share with you today's guest. You've already seen who it is. I always wonder with these introductions, it's like you already know exactly who's sitting down here with me. And if you're watching on YouTube, you already see them, bored with my intro, saying, "Get to it, Mike." So let's get to it. Help me welcome from the University of Mount Olive, the wise, the wonderful, Mr. Justin Potter. Justin, how are you, sir?
I'm great, man. It's a great day. Happy to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
I'm happy you're here. I was telling you before we hit record here today that, I keep a list. I don't know if people really know how the machine, the Gill podcast goes, but, you have to keep a list. You guys all expect a new episode every week. And that means I got to be recording at least once a week, right? And I travel and work. And so I got to stack these up. So Justin, you've been on the list for a while. I keep a list of like people that I'm interested in learning more about. So it was kind of, it was like fortuitous timing. You emailed me about, some work to do for you. And at the same time, I was like, hey, I'm going to be getting a hold of you to see if you're interested. Kind of a pre invitation to the podcast. Yeah. So I'm excited about this, man. I really am.
I'm too.
So hey, real quick before we get into your journey, just because we're now post Olympics, I'm just curious, people's opinion. What did you think about the Olympics and results and how we did or how we didn't do?
Man, I'm not the one to ask.
Is that right?
Yeah, no, I'll keep it real with you. There's a lot of things that I think could have went better for us, the qualifying period, especially coming out of the trials and stuff. But, it is what it is. It's like that in Division II where I'm at. You got to perform when it matters to go to the next level. And when you get there, you got to get the job done. And I hate, and it's always like you're harsh or something like that. But, we know we're better than that. And I think it's already been proven down at the Diamond League. Chase got the win down there.
I know.
So,
right.
Yeah. So it's just, it's just unfortunate. Things happen. It is what it is. But the worst part is the wait, right? You got to wait 4 more years. And then some people kind of fall out of the cycle or what have you. Yeah. It was a great Olympics. It was awesome. I enjoyed watching everything from, the running to throwing, obviously. Really happy for a lot of people, they got some medals, but I think the U.S. could have done better, and we will as we move forward.
That's interesting because, take a step back and look at how Team USA did. Wow. I mean, we destroyed it. I mean, come on, but you're right. There were still parts where it's like, and Chase is a great example. And this is not picking on Chase. No one feels more bad or good for Chase than herself. And, as we're recording this, how do you pronounce Lausanne? Is that how you pronounce it? Lausanne, whatever the Diamond League
I think
was.
so.
Yeah. Someone's yelling at me right
Lausanne
now.
Or Lausanne?
Yeah. Someone's yelling at me right now. Like, how do I not know this? I don't even know what country that's in. That's how bad I am in that regards. It's Diamond League. I know that.
There you go.
And she goes out. What'd she throw? The number 2 American throw ever? Is that right?
Yeah. I forget 2050 something, right? 2056 maybe.
And she owns the American record, right? Like that wasn't.
Ooh. Man, don't do this to me on the podcast.
Hey, we don't edit, so if we just don't know, we just don't know. So
I know.
Again, someone is yelling at me right now, like, how do you not know this?
No, it's all right.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I thought she did, but then it was odd the way they were announcing it, saying the second best American throw ever, and I'm like, well, that means it's not a PR if she's the American. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it's so tough. I think your point about 4 more years. So it's 2024. So great. We'll see you. Hopefully we'll see you in 28, Chase, and you can make up for it. That is probably one of our major flaws in our sport. No one, the Patriots don't beat the Falcons in the Super Bowl, and everybody goes, well, man, Falcons hope in 2028, hope for 4 more years from now when you go to the Super Bowl, maybe you can redo it. No, it's like, okay, next year. Like let's get back. Yeah,
next year, baby.
Yeah. Well, that's the Panthers motto, next year, right?
That's right, baby.
I know nothing about NFL. They may actually be awesome. I have no clue. I don't pay
No,
attention.
we are on the bottom.
Okay. All right.
So, they're trying to come up, baby.
All right. But with that once every 4 years thing too, you're also down to, Chase had 2 days, qualifying day and a finals day, everything. I mean, God bless, you get sick, you hurt your ankle, I don't know, you wake up in a bad mood. We're humans. Chase is human. I don't want to say it's a lot of pressure for one attempt because, life's about pressure, and things like that. But man, what I really hope is people's legacy. So like a Chase's legacy doesn't get diminished because of that one day.
No, I don't think that's
right. Look at the body of work.
I think people that are hypercritical do stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate all the effort. And, I remember watching her go from, I know we're way off topic here, maybe.
All good.
But I remember watching her go from a glider to a spinner and, that process for her and how she just, moved up through the ranks and became number 1 in the world. Like, she's had an absolutely amazing career and, there's still more to come for her.
Agreed.
But it just sucks sometimes, man. It's just it's the harsh reality of what we deal with at that level. Now I haven't coached there yet.
Same.
But the goal is to get there one day, and hopefully in 28 in LA. On the other side of the country.
And remember, a bad day for her allowed someone else to have the best day of their life. Like, someone still won and was like, holy crap, I thought Chase might win that. And I was able to beat her, and I went. Like, they're telling this is the same story that is told way 2 different ways, right? Chase might be devastated. This other person is like, that was the greatest day in the world.
Yep.
So,
and sometimes it's all someone needs is that door to open up, and then there's some more magic that happens, right? And that's the beauty of the sport. So it's harsh, you don't know, harsh reality, but the beauty of it.
Is this the thing? Maybe not that Chase needed motivation, but is this the thing that like, oh, we're about to see, like Chase is about to go destroy everything now, and and that wouldn't have happened if she would have won the gold or something like that. So you don't know. These are, I like to think of, I'm a Marvel universe guy. So I like to think of the multiverse, like, there's different patterns out there. And this is the pattern that this might be the multiverse that, she goes out and just destroys people now because she lost, you know what I'm saying? So who knows?
Well, she's currently 1 for 1 post Olympics. So.
That's right. So far, we're on that track. That's right.
That's right.
All right. Well, speaking of track, let's get to you, Mr. Potter here. Speaking of Marvel, I was a comic book collector back in the day, and my favorite comics were episode number 1, comic number 1, the origin story, how Spider-Man, how Peter Parker became Spider-Man and Bruce Wayne becomes Batman. Let's talk about you, Justin. Where does track and field start for you?
Man, I really think I have a pretty interesting story, so I'm pumped to be here and tell it. But I actually didn't do track until I was in college. So I played baseball for a long time and I did football for a long time.
Really?
And I always thought I was going to be maybe a basketball player or something because I can shoot pretty good. But I got to college and
hold on. Let's not get there yet. Then hold on. I want to let's paint the whole picture. So you're in high school. Where are you growing up at? Are you North Carolina native?
Eastern North Carolina. So I went to South North High School.
Okay, so you're in North Carolina. They had track there.
They did. We had we had an asphalt 6-lane track.
Nice. Yeah. That's old school there.
Which is now finally, I think during COVID, they actually resurfaced and put a surface down, and it's a nice blue track now.
Nice. So, cool. Well, you weren't there, so they didn't care. You weren't on the team, so they're like, whatever. But you're playing basketball. Is track, like, do you look at the track team and you're like, well, that'd be cool? Or did you look down on the track team? What were your feelings for track though during high school?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my buddies so baseball was probably the primary thing that held me back from doing track for so long. I played baseball for 12 years, I believe. Wow. So yeah. So, and getting a job in school and things like that kind of kind of deterred me from track a little bit because, you know, you get the stigma of, oh, you got to go run and, and do that stuff. And I just had a lot of stuff going on, and, you know, baseball was, you know, a passion of mine. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Very, very, what's the opposite of complimentary to track and field? It's very, you know, it's, there's rare that a baseball player does track because the seasons coincide, and, you know,
Yep.
football and track, very complimentary. Baseball and track, very, what is the opposite of complimentary? I can't even think like diss, like baseball disses track. Yeah. So
yeah.
when you're looking at going to college after high school and you're playing baseball and basketball, and baseball is the big sport. Did you go on to play baseball? Like, is that what you're going to college, or were you just, I'm gonna say just going to college? I hate that word just, but what was that thought process going to college as far as like major and sports and things like that?
Yeah. Man, you know, I had some walk-on opportunities for football actually. But I was kind of steering away from that because I got hurt a few times, and, you know, I kind of had, I think I had a good mind about my body at the time. Although I guess the more throwing I did, I kind of stopped caring about it. So I have some stuff that, you know, I'm dealing with my elbow and whatnot. But yeah, man, I thought I was going to go play college baseball at Mount Olive, and that didn't work out. I still decided to come here. You know, had a great relationship with the baseball coach, Carl Lancaster. I mean, one of the greatest guys I've ever known. But, you know, I wasn't good enough. And I'll tell you, when I went out there for that tryout, and I'm out there with these guys that are, you know, transferring and all these freshmen, I was like, man, I don't know if this is going to be it for me. But yeah, no.
Did you
in college?
Was coach, like, what were you thinking major wise? Like, was coaching at all in your purview though? So maybe baseball coaching, or maybe even football?
Yeah. So, you know, I think a lot of kids who, you know, have some success at their high school, like, they want to go back and coach at their high school. So that was my thought, right? Like, I went to school, I was going to do sports management, and then I switched over to history because I was like, you know, my favorite teacher in high school was my history teacher. So I was like, you know, I was very impacted by them. Actually, there was two of them. They were both history teachers, my football coach and my baseball coach. So I just kind of drew to that path, and I was thinking about South Lenore the whole time. But then when I got done at Mount Olive, you know, I know I'm fast forwarding a little bit here, but when I got done, I was like, man, I really enjoyed this college thing. And no joke, like, I played plenty of Xbox and stuff like that. So NCAA 14, right? Like, I played all the NCAA games, and the recruiting piece was like my favorite thing to do. So obviously NCAA 25 is coming out, and I'm smashing that public. But yeah, so the recruiting piece was so interesting to me my whole life, like, you know, playing these games and stuff. I was like, I can totally do that, and, you know, continue to invest myself in the sport, because I was so young in the sport when I graduated. You know, I only had 4 years, and most people have 8, maybe, you know, 10 years. I don't know. So I was pretty young in it, and I just gave it a shot. Went and be a graduate assistant at Lynchburg College, and just fell in love with it, man.
So where does track come in? You're looking at walking on to baseball. That didn't work out. I actually love that, you know, appreciate that openness and authenticity, because sometimes you know, if you're on the outside, you can sometimes think both ways. Things are super hard and also super easy. And so you may think like, oh, D2 baseball, like, come on, yeah, you can make the team there. And then you got there and you're like, oh, wow, like, man, there's some dudes here, man. Like, there's a lot of good baseball players.
And they won the national championship.
Oh, did you? Okay, so they were, okay.
So I got cut, right? Yeah, I got cut, and I think only 3 freshmen made the team that year, and they ended up winning the national championship that year. Dude. So it's kind of like a bummer.
Yeah, right. Like, can I just sit the pie, man? Just give me a ring, baby.
Yeah, man.
I'll help somewhere.
Right.
So how did track come in? Did you get cut and say, well, let me just go try a sport I've never done before? Like, how does this work out?
Yeah. So it was a summer thing. I wasn't good enough. I know that. So I still decided to go to Mount Olive because it was, you know, it wasn't far from home. You know, if I needed to go home, or I was able to keep my job at home for the first 2 years I was in school before things got like, I need to work in Mount Olive, instead of driving home, you know, 40 minutes or whatever it was. So Yeah, I was just me and my roommate were in the weight room, and they had started. I think they had started club track the year before,
Okay.
and we didn't even know that. But but this guy comes in the weight room, me and my buddy Alex, my roommate, who I didn't know before I went to college, and he's become one of my best friends, and he's in law school right now, and yeah,
Was
he's doing great. But
was he a track guy?
yeah, so
Okay,
he
okay,
did
okay.
track.
All right. So
So
there's a little, okay, that's what I'm wondering where,
uh-huh.
like, there has to be some influence here a little bit. Okay, got it. Good.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm slowly getting
No,
there.
no, we're good. You're doing great. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so we were just in the weight room, and this old dude with his high pants on, and tight shirt, just comes, walking in there, and he's like looking at us, and I'm like, I look at Alex, I'm like, man, what, do you see this guy?
Look at this dude.
And then like after I did that, like Coach Hodge, he came over and he was like, hey, do you guys maybe want to try throwing for the track team? And I was like, we have a track team? And Alex was like, oh man, that would be awesome. And I was like, Coach, I've never thrown before, but I've thrown a baseball for the last 12 years,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
love moving heavy stuff. So it just all kind of
Did you even
happened,
have an
man.
idea, like when he says you want to throw for the track team, as track people, we know, oh, okay, shot put, discus, if we're talking about college,
Hmm.
hammer and javelin. If I go to the person on the street and says, hey, do you want to throw for the track team? Some maybe because we just watched the Olympics would know, oh, the shot put or something. Most are going to be
Hmm.
like, throw what, baseball? Like, did you, when he said that, did you know shot put, like discus, like, did you know that was a track event and that's what he was talking about?
Yeah. I
Okay.
knew I knew about shot and disc because I kind of alluded to earlier, like my friends were doing track, and
Yeah. Okay. Good
one of
point.
my
Good point.
friends ended up going to UNCW, and he
Oh,
actually,
yeah.
or North Carolina Wilmington.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, my buddy Jeff Claves works there. He's one of my mentors, so I'm going to mention him
Yeah,
now in
that's
case
right.
I don't mention him
Great,
later.
great dude. I love him. Love
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff is an awesome guy. But yeah, he went down there. Not that they know each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but he went to school down there. He graduated the year before me, so I had a pretty good idea.
Yeah, good point.
Um,
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Is like,
yeah,
where was your level of track? So you
yeah.
didn't maybe participate in high school, but good point. I didn't. I haven't been in high school for a long time. You got friends
No,
that
you're
do
good.
it. You're at the lunch table, like, oh, you threw the shot. What is that? Oh, okay, yeah, get it. All right, got it, got
Yeah,
it. Okay, so you were kind of like, hey, man, I like to throw things and I like to move heavy
yeah. I
things.
was
That sounds like a thrower.
Heck yeah, man. I was all in, man. I wasn't very good at either, but
So
I
what was
gave it my best shot. And
what was that experience like? First time, I don't know, first practice they put a shot in your hand or not, but what's the when you it's interesting when a ninth grader joins track because we just know instinctively, nothing, you've never done it, etc. You're a college freshman, sophomore, you're a
yeah,
dude at this point,
mhm.
still don't know anything about track and like how to actually throw. What's that experience like? Almost like learning as an adult. You're 18, but
Yeah, yeah. I think I had a good mind for movement and understanding things pretty quickly. I think that's why I do such a good job coaching.
hmm,
Um, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, sorry,
it's
but
okay.
I had a good understanding of like movement and things like that. So it wasn't terribly difficult for me because I harped on things like that my entire life.
Hmm,
So technical stuff was really always in my mind with everything I did.
hmm,
So power, obviously, you got to have that,
hmm,
but the technical stuff was always in my mind, whether I was playing baseball, football, basketball, whatever.
hmm,
I was always thinking about what I did wrong on a shot or
hmm.
whatever. So I think I had a pretty good understanding of like how to move around and do things. But when you put that shot put in your hand, things change.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That
So
makes me think of when Tyson says everybody's got a plan until they're punched in the mouth. It's like, oh, I know movement.
yeah,
I know I'm strong. Yeah, 16 pounds, buddy. Good luck.
yep, yep.
What
Yeah, I never even got to see a 12-pound shot put, right? So like
right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that's what I was trying to gauge, like where, this is a different experience coming into learning it as an 18-year-old in college than a 14-year-old in high school. It's wildly different, even though it's the same event.
right.
Now, most of the time we stereotypically think of a baseball player and automatically think javelin, and whether it's javelin only or javelin primary. Where was javelin, if at all, in this discussion? I'm hearing
Yeah.
shot put,
Oh,
obviously.
the javelin was probably the most intriguing thing initially because I'm like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I've done for 12 years is,
Hmm,
throw
hmm,
something overhead like that. And so the javelin clicked with me. I wasn't very good. I only threw like 43 meters, but
hmm,
hey man,
hmm.
I didn't have the coaching
Yeah.
Not that I don't think that would really truly help me. But yeah, I just soaked it up and did the best I could for the team and tried to be the best supporter that I am. And, I think I carry that into my coaching world more than anything.
So,
It's
so,
just
how,
my support of the athletes.
so
So
how did that experience go? I assume you did 4 years there at Mount Olive. Did the track team go from a club to a varsity or?
yeah, so that first year when he came and got us, that they were going varsity that year. So
Ah,
the club the year before, and then they were going full bore.
got
So
it.
yeah,
How'd that experience go? Did you get better? Did you,
yeah, yeah,
never get better at all? That's possible. We don't all have, it's a skill. So we don't all have a skill.
yeah, yeah. I definitely, like I said, like I gravitated towards the javelin more, and then I don't know, it's probably about 3 months in when we found out what a hammer was, and I was like, "Yo, that's awesome."
Cool event, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Seriously.
So I fell in love with that
Nice.
afterwards, and I was actually the first one to ever throw hammer in a college meet for Mount Olive. I think I threw like 27 meters or something.
Nice, nice,
But
nice.
like yeah, this was like 2008. So we didn't have TFers until 2009, I think,
Yes, on
right?
the
So you can see my nonsense on TFers if you want to look it up.
the sidebar. I love that you said that, and I really hope that we can get all high schools on TFers. And here's why: because then we build this database of 14-year-olds in North Carolina picking up the shot or the 100-meter dash for the first time, all the way through their 8, 9 years later, their senior years in college. Like we get to see real progressions of
Mhm.
athletes. I would love to see. We get it in college now. I'd love to see that full spectrum. Man, I just think that'd be so cool,
Yeah.
so cool to see. What do you mentioned the hammer, which my eyes light up as well because that's my favorite event. When I
Oh,
coached,
awesome.
oh yeah, when I coached, I would hammer throwers. I don't know if it's still happens, but everywhere I went to, they were the first ones to practice. You get them out of the way type of thing, right? And so I would
Yeah.
always go to practice early just to watch the hammer throwers. What and again, I'm just so fascinated by someone who doesn't get into track until college. Um,
Yeah.
what and coming from a baseball background, so again, I think like, oh, he's going to gravitate towards the javelin, and but he's a
Mhm.
thrower. Shot put and discus is reign supreme inside of throwing. What was it about that hammer that because your face lit up too?
Yeah.
What was it about the hammer that was like, oh, whoa, hold on, where's this been my whole life?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just how difficult it was, right? But
Mm,
how repetitive it was. So the hammer to me is truly a testament of how technical you can do things. Because there's a lot going on in the hammer. You said you've been around it, so Um, 3 turns, 4 turns, different entry techniques and
mm,
things. So I don't want to get too technical here, but
mm,
it was literally the technical aspect of the throw that just lit me up about it.
mm.
And not that I was ever really great at it, like I said. I cared more about it than how I did with it, I
Yeah,
guess.
it's I like it because and I think a lot of people gravitate towards it that learn about it is it looks like it's deceivingly harder to see. I'm not sure. It looks like it's simple. It's like, oh, get in there and
Right.
twirl around and
Mhm.
throw like it actually seems like, oh, this is easy. I get to actually use some momentum and twirl and then throw, not just like, this brute like 16 pounds. I got to come across this, 8 foot ring.
Yeah.
Like that seems like, oh, I better be super strong. The hammer seems like, oh, I don't have to necessarily be the biggest or strongest. I
Mhm.
can like, this seems easy. And then you get in and do it. And it's like, oh my gosh, like to your point, there is technique and you got to be on it to throw this thing.
Mhm.
And you got the repetition, which that's interesting because typically when you say something is repetitive, it's like, well, it's boring, but here's an event that is repetitive that it's fascinating, fascinating.
Yeah, I love it, man. I could sit up. Well, I do it all the time anyway. I've got 25 throwers here, so we have
Oh,
a we have a really big squad, and some very good hammer throwers in there
love
as
it.
well. And just sitting out there every day, man, it's awesome.
I
Like
agree. I
it's
love it.
it's so much fun. Like I know I'm hard on them sometimes, and I hit them with some stuff, but man, I just love sitting out there and watching these kids throw and
That's so
watching
cool.
them figure things out, man. It
Yeah.
is literally the best thing in the world. So
The other part of the hammer that I like, if you're going to be a good shot putter, you've got to be a big person, whether that's big in mass, but also big in strength. Like it's just, there's, uh, Adam Nelson is the absolute rarity, right? The person who's
yeah,
not tall, but obviously picked up with it with much strength and speed. But you got to be big. Discus, you better have some long levers. You're not going to be successful if you didn't get that genetic gift. Javelin, it's its own other event. I'll just set that to the side. But the hammer, when I first got into college and therefore first learned about the hammer event, I stereotypically was like, oh, well, there must be a big person and strong and all that kind of stuff. And I remember one of the first national championships I went to, and I go over to watch the hammer because I was just fascinated with it. And I see these two young ladies, and I'm like, oh, these guys they were from USC. I was like, oh, they must be high jumpers. I mean, they were super tall, 6'1", 6'2", super, it looked like what you would put on the high jump apron. And I was like, but they got their uniform on. That's just weird. Like, we're at the hammer area, and they go and get a hammer, and they won the net. I think they went 1 and 2. It was Dan Lange's kids at USC. He's had tons of great hammer throwers there. And it was the first time I was like, oh, wait a minute. Like this is an event that, like, there's other things going on, athleticism, balance, awareness, things like, it's like that just intrigued me too. It's like, oh, there's what I love about track and field is, no matter who or what you are, short, tall, big, small, black, white, male, female, there's some event in track and field where you can have some success. And the hammer feels like that one event that, like, oh, you can be short, tall, obviously taller, better, things like that. But like, you can be pretty good at this event if you put in the work, whether you're super strong, super slow, super tall, super short. Like, there's a lot of body types here that can be successful in the hammer. And it's always drawn me to it, man. It's been really fascinating.
Yeah, no, it's pretty encompassing. Is if the person can understand and move, and spatial awareness is a big thing. So if you have some of those keys, those things, you can be successful in the hammer. It just takes time. It just takes a lot of throwing and a lot of work, a lot of determination. I mean, with anything, right? But
that's what I like about it. I've told the story, I haven't told it in a while. When I was at Ball State, in fact, our throws coach, who was our GA, actually went on to go to UNCW and coach. In fact, our men's head coach was at Lynchburg. There is at Lynchburg now.
Oh, sweet.
A lot of connections. Anyway.
Yes, Jim.
Yeah. We had this walk-on long jumper, Holly. Never forget her. She was awesome. Great person. Not a long jumper. I mean, I literally, I think she came in. She came in the year before I got there. I think she jumped, 13, 14 feet. We're in the MAC. Doesn't matter where you got 13, 14 feet, ain't getting it done, right? We got up to like 16 and a half. And I was like, it ain't working. And I was like, hey, you know what though? You like athletics, you like, working out and stuff like that. Why don't you go to Lane and try the hammer? Like, what's the worst that can happen? Like, at least maybe you'll have a better college experience, And so, I'd go and watch, and, he's literally taken her from nothing. She knows nothing. I don't even think she knew what the hammer was. Starts turning, teaching her the turns and things like that. And by her senior year, she got 8th place in the MAC in the hammer. And that always struck with me. It's like, man, this young lady goes from having hopefully still a good college experience of being on a team at the Ball State. We had a great team, great culture there. So maybe, if she had stayed a long jumper, she still would have had be able to walk away and say, man, I enjoyed my time as a track athlete at Ball State University. Now her story is even greater. It's like, oh yeah, I worked my butt off. And by the way, my senior year, I contributed like to the conference. Like that to me is like the story you want to tell for college athletics and specifically track and field. So, okay. Anyway, back to you, Justin. You got me on my tangents here.
No,
okay.
You're good.
So you go through Mount Olive, they become a varsity team. Love that. You're learning all these throws, seem to have some passion. When you go, you gave us the preview for the next step. You become a GA at Lynchburg. Why? I assume that was track and field.
Yep.
Why track and not, like, you had 12 years, you had love and passion for baseball. You still kind of had a little fork in the road. Like, I don't think it would have been all that odd if you'd have said, yeah, I went and became the GA at baseball for Lynchburg. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's your passion. Why this kind of really, 12 years of baseball, 4 years of track. So this is kind of a quick pivot here, even to track and field.
Yeah. Man, I fell in love with the sport, and like I was saying earlier, like the recruiting piece of those video games and stuff, and building relationships is what life is all about. So it's all hand in hand there, and I just wanted to do the GA. I did my master's in education. Again, I'm gonna maybe go back to my high school.
Okay, I was going to ask. Yeah, you're still thinking about going to high school, right?
Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until actually the end of my second year at Lynchburg when I got a couple phone calls about, going to a different job, and it kind of just all happened, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been happy ever since, had a lot of success, had a heck of a lot of fun.
Good.
Sorry, I almost said the wrong word there.
Oh, it's all good. No,
But
that part. So
yeah,
a little behind the curtain here, what he's alluding to there. So part of our pre-interview process is I always tell people I don't do editing, so don't make me do editing. Now, what that
right,
means is I think people do, just like you did, Justin, infer about cussing. We don't care. I don't care because I want you to be who
oh,
you are.
okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If that's who you are, you say who
okay,
you are. All good.
cool,
It's more of like no axe to grinds. You know what? That coach at Mount Olive when I was there did me dirty. It's like that's the kind of stuff. Like, man, don't say it. We're not here to talk bad
yeah,
about people.
no,
So no. If
no,
you say the word hell, say the word hell. That's
okay,
this is about showing you, Justin, who you are in all your good and bad. We all have good and bad. So don't worry about that part. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to clear that up. A little behind the curtains,
no,
all
you're
the
good.
magic that goes on here in the podcast, people. Um,
There you go.
so okay, you become a GA at Lynchburg. Was Spreck there when you were there? I don't remember what year he got.
No, no,
Okay.
Sprague was 5 years
Yeah, because
after I
he
left
went to
or something
UNCW
like
for a
that.
good amount of time. So
Oh
yeah,
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 yeah, that's true. Lynchburg, by the way, beautiful campus. Oh my gosh,
yep,
unbelievable beautiful. So I'm always interested, just because you were an athlete, whether you were, air quotes here, good or not good, we all get to define that differently, doesn't
right,
mean you're going to become a good coach.
right.
How did you, I know it, I'm assuming from my experiences that when you become a GA at Lynchburg, you get a lot of responsibility. It's not like if I go become a GA for throws at Georgia, I'm going to be working under, oh man, of course I'd forget that name as soon as I said I have his face.
You're good.
I'm going to be doing what he tells me to do. I'm not going to be necessarily writing up the workouts, but I feel like at a Lynchburg, you're going to be
Mhm.
like, yep, there's your group. Go. You like NCAA
Yeah.
recruiting? Great. Go do that too. How did you talk to us about that transition from athlete to coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think thankfully, I had the best boss I could have ever asked for. Doug Thomsey. He was All-American decathlete when he was a student at Lynchburg, and then he
Oh,
became a
nice.
coach there. And then he was the head coach, and now he's just teaching. And he's got 3 kids, so he's got his doctorate from Virginia in
Wow.
math. So
Oh, in
I
math,
have
a doctorate in
yeah, yeah,
math, dude.
yeah. So he's with Blue Ridge Timing. I don't know if you've heard of
Oh
them,
yeah.
but
Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, he owns that company, and so he came out of coaching and went into timing and stuff. But sorry, I'm tangenting
No,
hard
you're
here.
good. You're good.
But yeah. So I was just all unbelievably blessed to work with him, and one of his biggest things he always said to me, because I asked a lot of questions and I wanted the responsibility. Um,
Mhm, mhm.
so he gave it to me. He gave it to me, and if I had a question about it, and it was something that he knew that I could figure out, he would always say, "It's your baby, figure it out." So I that has always stuck with me, and I try not to ask for a ton of help just because of how he taught me to do things. And yeah, obviously we all need help with things, and we ask our people for those things. But I am truly blessed to have gotten to work with Doug, and he taught me so much about the sport. He put me through a day. You can see I'm a big guy. I'm a throws guy. He put me through, he put me through a day of pole vaulting. Just yeah, we had a 10-foot 500 pole, and he made me vault
I'll
for
get
a
the
whole
guys in the
session.
background. All right,
And
we need a 10-foot 500.
yeah, yeah.
How
Well, I
did?
think it was a 15-foot pole that broke, and we cut it,
Oh, sure.
and
Yeah, 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 yeah.
anybody in the world could have jumped on it.
How did that
um,
how did that go? Because I have kind of an experience too, where you're like, hey, let's screw around and play with the pole vault, and it did not go
yeah,
well. What in the
I
world?
I had a ton of fun, but I've never in all the years of sports. Okay, I mean I've played so much stuff. I've never rolled my ankle ever. So I've never had any kind of ankle issues. But after I got done vaulting, my left foot was bigger than I'd ever seen, and my ankle hurt
Really?
for like probably 3 days.
Wow.
So I wasn't a little guy. I'm not a little guy.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was just a lot
Wow.
of
Did you get off the ground?
mhm, mhm.
Wow. Yeah, my feet got like 2 inches
I
off the
didn't. I
ground.
did not turn over.
Yeah.
I
Oh
did
God,
not turn
come on,
over. That
dude.
ain't.
If
There
you
ain't no way.
if you would have told me you turned over, I'd have been like, Jay, listen, man. we want to talk about truth here. There's no way you did that. Yeah, I would not have believed that anyway. So, but you got off the ground. I like I said, I got my feet like 2 inches off the ground, and I was like, done. That is not a comfortable feeling for me. These people that pole vault, bro.
Oh no,
God bless
I
you.
was nowhere near comfortable. That's for sure.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and man, I learned so much
Did that give
about
you?
takeoffs.
Did that give you like? Maybe you already had some of it, but it's one thing to have it and then actually experience it yourself, like understanding, empathy, admiration for other events.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. It because he was a decathlete, right? So he had his hand in all
Hmm.
kinds of stuff.
Hmm.
So he was just giving me everything that I asked for. And like I said, man, I couldn't have been more blessed
That's
to have
cool.
a boss like him and work with him and learn everything from him. Yeah.
That's
There's
cool.
some technical stuff we don't agree on, but
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, yeah. That's what's great about our profession. I love that.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think that's a healthy conversation to have, actually, Justin. A lot of people will say, I have conversations with coaches every day. Like, obviously I have very long form, like these conversations, which I'm grateful for, text message, phone call every day, 100 coaches a day. Right. And the way you just said that is very common. I hear it that way a lot. It's like, oh, we may not disagree, almost like you're apologizing, a little bit. But when you go back, take a layer back and you think about our sport and our athletes, you'll hear the term I'll go on a limb and say, I bet you'll agree with this statement that, you can't coach every athlete the same. Some athletes need, whether it's throwing or running, distance running is probably the easiest one to give an example. Some people need to be 100 miles per week and some people need to be 40 miles per week. Right. And so
mhm.
if that's true, which it is, that means like when you say like, yeah, he and I, there were some things we didn't agree on coaching wise, as long as we're not talking about like safety things like, oh, he thinks, everybody should jump off a 40-foot bridge, dumb things like that. That means some of the things that you disagree with him, I assume specifically we're talking about throws coaching here,
Mhm.
is the right thing to do with certain athletes, just like what you do that he might have disagreed with is the right thing to do for certain athletes. So it's not I think we try to get into a very like, oh, that coach is a volume coach versus I'm a sprint coach and they're wrong and I'm right. And it's like, no, depending on the athlete. And so you're going to get so many different athletes throughout the years and throughout your career. It's almost like, well, you may not have to necessarily agree with it, but you better understand it because you're liable to have an athlete that needs that. And if
Right.
you're not able to see that and go, oh, I need to do this one differently, that I don't agree with that with 90% of my throwers, but for these 10%, I do got to do this. You won't get the full potential. So I think it's a great discussion to have and not be apologetic. You have to have a style that you feel is the right way, but you have to have bending, because again, you're dealing with
Yeah.
18 to 22-year-olds who are odd and different and different. Some are
Hmm.
coming in and they're baseball players, or they're coming in and they've been doing it since 8 years old. So that's a lot different. Yeah, I love that. Keep going. Sorry, I thought it was important.
No, you're good. I don't even remember where I was.
So we're talking about you're describing your transition from athlete to coach,
Oh
and
yeah,
you're talking about getting a lot of different experiences with what was Doug's last name? I'm sorry.
Thomasy.
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 Thomasy, yeah, Coach Thomasy,
Yeah.
and learn all that. How about I love, and we've heard this before, where people really liked the recruiting side of the NCAA football game and stuff like that, and that's cool.
Okay.
I would have been there as well. I love that aspect. However, it's different than really recruiting. How did you find
Oh yeah.
actually calling up an 18-year-old kid and talking and letters and all that stuff?
Yeah. It's man, this is a good one. I'm gonna be honest.
Good, appreciate that.
Because I was so lucky to fall into the situation I did because I wasn't a good athlete. I wanted to find out if this was something I wanted to do for a
Hmm.
long time.
Hmm.
And so when I went to Lynchburg, it was all about just learning as much as I could, challenging myself all the time. And like I said, Doug was all about that. And he let me make mistakes. He let me learn. He let me, call all kinds of people. Eventually, the second year, I became our recruiting coordinator. And, if somebody wasn't getting reached out to, I made sure that we followed up on things. And
Hmm.
yeah, like he just handed me the reins, man, and let me, become who I was. So it was awesome.
Where did you can you think of recruiting it's not one thing. It's a series of 10 to 20 things, right? Visits,
Mhm.
letters, recruiting management. Are you going after the number one kid in North Carolina? It's like, well, you're in Lynchburg, no offense, but maybe not,
Yeah.
can you think of some things that you struggled with? Like maybe you thought you weren't going to struggle. You're like, man, I just blow away NCAA 14. I'm going to be amazing at this part. And you're like, oh, you know what? I
Yeah.
actually had to learn to manage this side of it a little bit.
Mhm. Yeah, it was tough. I think you go into a Division III setting, and the cost of school was not friendly.
That's
So
the
that made
best way
things.
I've ever heard that. It's
Yeah,
not
uh,
friendly.
it's not.
That's great.
um, yeah, so it was tough. Like, it was hard because I had this whole different mindset about it, right? Like, I did have that wrong mindset, and I learned quickly that I needed to fix that and do a better
What
job of
what
things.
what
And
was that wrong mindset? You said you had the wrong mindset. What does that
oh,
mean?
I thought it was going to be easy,
Ah,
right? Because that's all I did
you
on
thought, man,
game
I
video
just
games.
call them up. I'm a cool dude.
Yeah,
I'll be
yeah,
turning people away.
yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what I thought. And
Mhm,
I learned quickly that, man, you got to work your
mhm,
butt off to get
mhm,
these kids to come here, because they're going to get a great education and you're going to give them a great experience, but that cost of school is daunting.
mhm.
So I figured that out, and ended up bringing in some pretty good kids and had a big squad there and did really well. I wish I could have spent more time there, honestly.
Mhm.
Um, but once graduation hit and I got a couple phone calls, it was like, all right, man, well, let's do this thing. Let's really go after it and do it right. So.
So I really think that graduate assistant coaches, typically when we go become a GA, we've already got kind of our mind set up that, yeah, I'm going to be a track coach. And I really wish it
Mhm.
was more of like, hey, I'm going to go become a GA and see if I want to be a coach. Like, I
Right.
wonder how many, I don't think it, I just culturally don't think it's very often that someone becomes a GA, does 2 years of coaching and getting their grad work and goes, yep, hey, that was fun. All right, I'm gonna go become just a regular teacher, or I hate to use the
Mhm.
word just, I'm gonna go become a regular teacher, or I'm gonna go open a business. They say that was great. I tasted it and it just wasn't for me. I really wish that, because coaching is not for everybody and everybody thinks it is.
Nope.
I shouldn't say everybody thinks it is. A lot of people think it is. You made that mind up. You're in now, because this is the
Mhm.
career path I'm moving forward. What you said some people were calling. What happened next?
Yeah, so I ended up going to Shenandoah University, which is in the same conference, which that was incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
But it was an opportunity to, become a full-time coach and just, you know, stay in that pathway. So yeah, I had to go against kids that I recruited and coached for 2 years, and that was tough. I was at SU for 3 years, and I think we went from, me and Andy went from like 19 kids on the team to when I left there was about 50 some kids on the team. So yeah, we did a great job there, and that program's in a great place now, and they're doing great. I've been gone for 8 years, but I see him all the time, and he
Yeah.
texted me this morning. So yeah.
Had you said something again very common. Went to coach at another school, but it was in the same conference, so I got to see these kids. And
Mhm.
how do you handle that? How do you adjust to that?
Um, Luckily, I was still so young in coaching when I was with them that I was just constantly learning, right? I went and got my level one, and I think at some point it was either my first, I think, yeah, it was my first year at Shenandoah. I went and got my level two for throws. Um, so I was still growing and learning so much of the sport. So I didn't have like a huge, like, uh, I guess, coaching attachment to anyone. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So that was helpful because I was just still learning and developing myself. So it was a little bit easier because of that, but it sucked because I had to go and try to beat some of these kids, and
Mhm.
and I can, one of them being Kim, one of my girls, Kim Alfaro. She was one of the best female throwers I've ever had, and I was so lucky to get her in Lynchburg, and
Mhm.
then I had to go against her for 2 years, or sorry, yeah, for 3 years, and
Mhm.
it was tough, and we had a great relationship, but I never talked to her about coaching
Mhm.
after I left her. So
Yeah, that's good.
yeah, she, some people ask some questions, but it's not my job.
Yeah,
So,
that's tough too. And that's very common, right? Because coaches were moving. And I say I hope we're moving because I'm always wanting coaches to get the next job that pays more. We don't pay enough. Even the jobs that we think are good paying jobs, I think they should be paid more out there. And so we had our number one episode ever still is Boo Schexnayder. Does that name ring a bell? Okay, good.
oh yeah, I know, but
That was a test, Justin. It's like, oh man, if you don't know Boo, this
it
is it's a
it
problem.
depends. It depends.
It depends. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. We had Boo on the podcast. Like I said, number one most listened to, rightfully so. I always bow down to Boo, love him. And he talked about leaving for another job, and a little different here in that position for you because it's GA, so you're forced to leave. And in regards to like, there's no third year GA, get out of here.
No.
But he talked about if we're doing it for the kids, if we think what we're in this profession to do is to help kids, how do leaving brings in a coach that's better for those kids? And it was like, oh, like I remember when he said that, I was like, Boo, you can't say that out loud. Like our ego as a coach says, no, I'm the best coach for these kids. And the reality, it's like, I don't know, maybe the next guy comes in and he or she's better, for those. So if it's what's right for the kids, then it's better that you move on. By the way, you could be the better coach for that next school. When you go to Shenandoah, you were probably the better coach for them in that situation than maybe what they had in the past. No shade on whoever was or wasn't there, just again, situationally there. So it's interesting.
I was Andy's first assistant. So
is that right?
He
Okay.
okay. Yeah. I think maybe he had like a part-time person or something before I went there, but
good.
Yeah, his staff has grown since I've been there and left.
Thanks for saving me from accidentally shading someone. It's always my fear. It's like, I'm
good.
not talking bad about someone. I swear. I promise.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
I love it. Shenandoah, the Hornets.
Yeah. So I went from Hornets to Hornets, red to red.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. That's right. That's awesome. Yeah. You're just going to go to all the schools that are Hornets. So maybe Alabama State next or something like that. Yeah. Okay. So it's one thing to be a GA. No matter how many responsibilities you have as the GA, you're still a GA, you're still a graduate assistant, you're still taking classes, you're not making a full-time salary, things like that. Now you go to Shenandoah and you are, I'm assuming, a full-time assistant, but you're not taking classes. This is your job. Everything's riding on you. How did you leverage those experiences that you learned recruiting and coaching at Lynchburg to now, like, all right, now I really, I know Coach Thomsey was very much, I love that quote, it's your baby, figure it out. So there's a lot of self-responsibility there, but now you really are like, it's your event, sink or swim, and please swim.
Right. Yeah, no, it was, man, the transition, like I said, was just a little rough because, being in the same conference, but I thankfully I had that understanding of things, and I wasn't totally, the coach that I became at that moment. So sorry, I'm trying to piece that in there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just, I hit the ground running there because we didn't have a lot, went to the weight room and saw what I saw, grabbed a couple kids. And I think we had one girl come over from field hockey and one girl come over from volleyball just to kind of help us really get this thing going in the right direction. Mm-hmm. And it was a little bit easier recruiting there. I'm not going to lie. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. But maybe that was because, I had figured things out and, got better at it. Right. But it was definitely a lot better there for me. Yeah.
Just more, why? More friendlier tuition. I still love how you put that.
Yeah. It was definitely a little bit cheaper.
Yeah. Okay.
There was some pathways that we had there that helped us get kids in.
I wonder psychologically, I just kind of thought about this, you may not express this in words, but Justin, when you're recruiting as a graduate assistant, there's some, a finite to it, like, hey, I'm recruiting you today. If it's your second year, I won't even coach you next year. I want you to come here because it's a good program, yada, yada. But I'm like, there's a little bit of like, I won't even get to see 4 years of these kids, where when you're full-time, it's like, the plan, at least today, is I will see you all the way through graduation. I'll work with you for 4 to 5 years. I wonder if there's, again, I'm not sure you would actually verbalize that because it's, this is kind of subconscious type stuff here, but I wonder if there's like in the back of your mind when you're recruiting, and I'm not necessarily pointing at you, I'm talking about anybody here actually, that there's what is deemed easier or, not as easy. I wonder if that plays into it all. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
Maybe.
I can definitely see that. Yeah,
Yeah, a little armchair
because
psychiatry here, of course, but yeah.
yeah, as well as you wanted to do, right? Like you just kind of continue to grow and get better every year, and you just get better at all the things that you're doing,
Right.
especially if you care about it. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
I guess it just kind of it just grew and grew and grew, and yeah, I hate to say that I know I said it was easier, but I hate saying that, but it
Yeah. No,
was.
I get it.
I,
No, I
I
think we
think
understand.
that was just because of my growth,
Yeah.
you know.
You,
So
there's a major distinction here. You're not saying it was easy. You're saying
no,
it was easier. That's a
there you
comparison.
go.
Yeah, I think that's a fair. Actually, I would hope, even as you as a coach would say, it is easier to coach today in my 10th year, wherever we're at today in 2024, than it was in my second year. I hope you say that because that means you've grown.
Yeah,
If it's
sure.
still like, I still don't know what I'm doing with the hammer. It's like, well, bro, you've been doing this for 10 years. Like, what's going on?
Yeah,
Like, something's not happening here. So
yeah.
I think you're expressing that fairly. Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely. You
okay.
mentioned, one of my favorite topics because it meant so much to me in my career and still does in the business world here, and that's professional development, coaching, education. You mentioned level one, you mentioned level two. Where did you do level two at? Do you remember that?
I was at NC State for level two. My
Hmm.
level one was done at Christopher Newport.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah,
what was
yeah.
that? 2011, I
Okay,
think.
yeah,
And then I'm not sure what year it was at NC State for level two, but
yeah. I don't remember
yeah,
that one.
maybe it
Yeah.
was 15,
Okay.
14, or I'm not sure.
Yeah. Very cool.
So going into that, I just turned in my level three project for USATF. So
Oh
I
wow,
should hopefully soon, next couple of days, or
dude.
next couple of weeks, we'll have our level three.
Do you remember who your level two teachers were?
Yeah, so we had Larry, Mike, and
Oh yeah.
Aaron were
Oh,
my yeah,
Aaron.
Gill Reef.
Oh yeah. Oh, Aaron. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Of course, of course.
yeah.
I was thinking Aaron. Aaron. Yes, 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 yes.
No,
It's
no,
funny
you're
when
good.
you say Larry and Mike. It's kind of like the Cher and Bono. Like I automatically knew exactly who just from the first names. Larry, Mike.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah, the judges. Of course, of course you had, yeah.
of course.
And I should have automatically put Aaron in there as well. She did a lot of teaching and maybe still does. But yeah, boy, you know what? So do you remember level two and Larry specifically? Mike's great too, but I'm just going to focus on Larry because I have some experience here. Um, Larry's gift is teaching. Like
Mm-hmm.
I used to host and teach a lot of level ones, and I had him as my throws teacher for several of them, and he made me believe like when he would get stand everybody up and make them do like hammer turns and positions.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, oh man, I think I can go through. I think I can go coach the hammer now. Like he is such a great teacher. Like I just think like I get jealous of the people who go to level two throws with Larry. And I'm sure Mike, I know Mike well, but I haven't been taught by him. But Larry is just like you think about people who are like put on this earth to be teachers. Like that dude could teach physics, that dude could teach track, that dude could teach history. What a
Yeah,
teacher Larry Judge is.
yeah. I was lucky, man, to have him for level one, level two, and
Oh,
then obviously at
both.
level three. Like
Oh,
I've had him for all three, and I've known him for so long now, and
yeah.
yeah, like just a excellent person. And yeah, if you got a question, he's the guy to ask.
He reminds me of like the call it the throw side of Boo, and what I mean by that is first of all both amazing teachers, but
Mhm,
Boo like there's these Boo quotes like Boo has these you mentioned one it depends and things like that.
mhm.
Can you um, you've had a lot of experience with Larry as a teacher and maybe mentor even at this point. Can you think of like what are some of the things or maybe even just one thing that Larry told you that you're like, oh my God, like that just like cleared the clouds of this misconception I had, whether
Oh
it was
man,
coaching or even philosophy. You know what I'm saying? He's not just talking about positions of arms, something very technical. He's talking about what you should be thinking about when you throw a hammer or shot put, etc.
hmm yeah. No, I think I've had so much instruction from him that like, I know that what I'm doing, he would, obviously I just did level three with him. So he's very in tune with what I do, and
Right.
he agrees with a lot of things that I do. And he's just been there like literally every step of the way
That's so
for me
awesome.
in the coaching world. Because, like I said, I was 3 months into coaching when I met him, and then he did
Wow.
my level two a couple
Dude,
years later.
do you realize how lucky
So
you are?
no, I know,
I mean,
man, and
seriously,
I'm so
wow.
I'm so blessed, man, and I've done classes with Boo as well, symposiums and stuff at the convention, and I did my strength and conditioning with Boo
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and Carrie. I think Carrie was the other one.
Carrie Lane, yeah,
Um,
uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, no, I just man, I there's nothing that's like super specific
Yeah,
because I
yeah.
think there's just way too much,
Sure,
honestly.
sure.
But he's cleared my head on God, countless things, man. Just, you know, do you think I'm doing this right? Is this too much throwing? Is this, whatever it is? Like
Yeah.
he's graded so much of my stuff and given me so much information just on, the things I've done in his
Yeah.
classes. Like, man, I'm blessed. That's all I can say, man.
His gift, like Boo, is he is able to simplify things. We get
Mhm.
caught up. I can only imagine in the throws world, but I know it's certainly in the jumps world. We get very caught up in all these different positions and the thousand different things, and it's like, Boo has, again. I kind of have this picture of like a cloud moving out of the way. Boo has this way of saying like three words, and it's like, oh. I get it. I need my athlete to be doing X, Y, or Z. I need to just say these one thing. Larry, I feel like has that same like, Larry, the turns and blah, 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 blah. And Larry just says, yeah, make sure their arms are long. And it's like, oh,
Mhm.
that fixes
Yeah,
this also.
I'll tell you a quick story that he told us at level two.
Mhm.
Apparently, Aaron, he was away at something, and Aaron was practicing. And man, this is how good he is, right? He said he said, Aaron, put the phone down because there's no video back then, right? Um, that would have made things a heck of a lot easier. I actually do FaceTime sessions with some of my kids sometimes. It's awesome. Until they have to walk and go get the implement. But Aaron, he told Aaron, he was like, put the phone down next to the circle and just let me hear the contacts, right?
Dude.
And I was just like, you got to be kidding me, right?
Right.
So he
That's
goes
Yoda stuff.
through it, and she said, and she was in the room, so she was there, and he was telling the story, and she said, yeah, after he listened to me throw, like he just literally heard my ground contacts, he was able to give me something, and all of a sudden I had the best session of my life.
Wow.
And the coach wasn't there. He didn't see anything. He literally had the information from her and he heard her throw, right? Like you don't hear that type of stuff,
Dude.
like maybe in baseball, oh, his mitt, the ball hits his mitt different, right?
Okay. Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
all heard that. But to hear somebody say that and then actually,
That's
something
crazy.
crazy, like
Yeah.
it's just wild, man.
I mean,
And so that's a quick
that's
thing about him. But
that's
yeah.
Yoda stuff. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I have not heard that from maybe less than five people. Boo being one of them. Telez, I've always heard Telez was like uh, had like Tom Telez had like a video recorder in his head. So a lot of people record practice, and Telez was like, I don't need it. I can just watch, and he could see all the angles and be able to. I mean, just I always say there are a bunch of amazing coaches out there as far as like their technical skills. And then there's about five people that are just a level up, man. Boo's always been in one of
Mhm.
those Larry's in there, Telez. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
unbelievable. It's really uncanny. Like if we believe that, some people hit the genetic lottery in certain aspects versus others, and that has to be true, right? I
Mhm.
think in the coaching, the technical side of it, I think some coaches hit the genetic lottery of how the brain, eyes, ears connects, and then that's one thing, but then to be able to process it and actually verbalize it correctly, that's all.
Mhm.
That's another level to the game, man. It just like I don't think you can
Well, I'm gonna
practice that and get to that level. You got to have some natural genetics there for that, in my mind.
yeah. I'll tell you a little thing that I figured out at level three. The thing you're just talking about with
Yeah,
Telez and stuff,
yeah, yeah.
I'm the same way. Like I don't need so I have probably 20,000 videos on my computer right now. But that is for my kids if they want it,
Uh-huh.
right? I can watch a video or watch someone do something
Yeah.
and then I can replay it.
Oh,
Like
wow.
I have, and this is, it's awesome. And I only realized that I was like this because I was at level 3. Coach Degata,
Mm.
you
Yeah.
may
No,
know
John well.
John.
Yep. Mm.
Yeah, I got to meet him my second year of coaching, so I've
Mm.
known him a long time.
Another
But
great dude. Yeah.
he was talking about um, I'm going to go into this a little bit, but he was talking about his dad was a fighter pilot, right? And he
Mm-hmm.
had, to do that, you have to have an excellent vision.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was talking about vision and how he sees things, and then he started talking about like, you know, he didn't need to continue to watch a video or something like that. And I was just sitting there, I was like, man, like I looked at my buddy Steve. Steve just took the job at Abilene Christian, great friend of mine. Steve Sanchez.
Oh
You
yeah,
should have
Steve. Yeah.
him on a
Yeah. Yeah.
podcast. He's a
Yeah.
good dude. He's got a lot to say.
He's a
But I
good
look
dude.
over at
He's a
Steve.
good looking dude. That's my thing with Steve Sanchez. We're friends like on
He's
Facebook, and
always ready.
I'm always like, bro,
He's always
you're
ready,
supposed to be a
man.
model, not a track coach, man. Yeah, he's a Steve. I don't know if you listen to man. I don't know if you know I had this man crush on you, but dude, you always look immaculate, my friend. Sorry, go ahead. So go ahead.
You're good. But yeah, so he was talking about like how he sees things, and I look over at Steve, and because we're sitting in the back of the classroom. I'm not gonna lie to you, we got there late because
Exactly what you don't tell
we
your
had to
athletes to
walk.
do.
Well, no, it's all right. We had to walk all the way across the Chula Vista campus, right, to go to
Oh
our
yeah,
classroom
been there. Yeah.
up the hill,
Mm-hmm.
and so we just got there last because we were just kind of straggling along. So, but I look over at Steve and I'm like, man, like, do you have to like watch video all the time? He's like, yeah, man, I love it. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
love watching video.
Mm-hmm.
No, and I was like, no, man. Sorry, I just hit my table. I was like, no, man. Like, I'm talking about for like after you see something, like, do you have to go to video? And people process things differently,
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve is one of the best coaches I know,
Mm-hmm.
but his brain doesn't operate like mine. And I realized that in that moment because
Mm-hmm.
I thought everyone did that,
Oh,
right? I
interesting.
thought because I can pull like I know I can't prove any of these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's in my brain. But like, I still I have registered like all the best throws of my kids. Like I can pull out, national championship throw from Mary Bridget Keck when she went 56 at NCAA's to open up and
Wow.
PR by meter. Like
Oh,
I can replay all those moments. I remember the crowd and like everything. So like when I'm at practice, like I don't go to my phone. Like I'm
mm.
not just on my phone. Like I'm coaching them using the video that's in my brain,
Yeah.
right? Some of it does go out, especially the bad stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But man, I can just pull so many things out of thin air in my
Yeah.
brain, and it just helps me so much with the kids. And so it's just a little bit of a processing thing. But I swear, man, for 14 years, I thought every single coach had that
Yeah.
ability, but it's just people are different.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to knock anybody or anything
I,
like that. It's
you,
just
you know
it's
what I,
crazy.
you know what that makes me think of, kind of call it a recommendation, a blessing, a word. Um, you should explore that more in the fashion of being able to present this at the North Carolina Track Coaches Association clinic, the USTFCA clinic, et cetera. And the reason I say that is twofold. One is if you sit down, like when you're writing a presentation, you got to think about things different because you're thinking about how do I communicate this and what do I mean when I internally say this? How, that may not be the right thing to say to the group, et cetera. So you'll learn more about that skill. Like you'll get better at the skill by learning how to teach it. And then on top of that, presenting this to other coaches will help them get better. Not to necessarily rise up because I think we both kind of agree. It's like there's some kind of genetic thing to this, so you can't get over that. But people can get better at how they utilize video or video in their mind or that connection to that. So I would just encourage you to explore how would you teach that to someone, not all of it, because you're talking about usually an hour presentation, 45 minutes to an hour. How would you like help people get better at seeing their athletes? And what's cool about this, while you're a throws coach and all that kind of stuff, this translates to sprinting, hurdling, long jump. I mean, this is the gamut. This isn't just a throws presentation. This is how do you coach better? How do you become a better coach through that? So
Yeah.
I'd encourage you to explore that, and like I
Yeah,
said,
yeah. And
you'll get better
that's
and you'll help other people. So
Yeah, I definitely, I went and talked to the Gata about it, and I was just like, man, like how do I improve this? Like, how do I
Mhm.
use this for my benefit? Although it already is totally benefiting me,
Mhm.
100%. But like, I didn't even know that was a skill, right? I
Mhm.
just thought it was assumed and whatever. Um, and I was asking him, I was like, how do we figure this out? And he's like, man, I think it's just keep going, just keep coaching, tell people about it, work on
Mhm.
it. I was like, how do
Yeah.
you do that?
Yeah. It's
But I
interesting.
think luckily I have 25 kids at practice, right? So it's just constantly happening to me.
Right. Right.
So it's just over and over and over again. Like I'm able to just register things that matter. And like I said, push out some of the things
Yeah.
that I don't want to remember. So
So you're at Shenandoah. How long were you there, and what goes on next?
yeah, so I was at SU for 3 years, and like I said, we grew the team. It was awesome. Um, Started looking around at jobs and stuff, and I was actually on an interview out in Iowa. I can't even remember the name of the school because it was a Division 3 school, or was it NAI? Might have been an NAI school actually, but just a random, totally random thing. Um, I'm sitting in the interview with AD, the president of the school, and someone else, um, and I get my phone just starts blowing up, and it's Mount Olive, and they're like, "Hey, we want to come, we want you to come back." And I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, man, I never thought I would go back home,
Wow.
you know. So it was a crazy situation, and everything ended up working out. And I was able to come back home, so closer to my family and stuff, further from my wife's family, but
Uh,
closer to my family. So
I love, like, I have a special place in my heart for alums who coach at their alma mater. I just think it's like the most genuine. We talk about recruiting. It's like the most genuine proof of how great your school and program is. It's like, yeah, you know how great it is. I went to, like, I chose. I could have gone to a lot of places, and I chose to go to school here. When you're at
mhm,
Shenandoah, you're selling another school. You didn't go to Shenandoah. You could have gone to
yeah,
Shenandoah, but you didn't. Why not, Coach? It's so great, but why didn't you go there? Now when you're at Mount Olive, it's like, yeah, bro, I went here. Like I know this, I know this hall, and I know this
hmm
the athletic facility. I know this professor. I just the authenticity is just like dripping when alum coaches at their alma mater. So I love that. What was it? The same coach?
yeah. He was my coach. Yep,
Okay,
Coach Matt.
so I
Yeah.
love this topic here because when we're athletes, there is deference to a coach. There's a power imbalance, right? The coach is here, the athlete is here. Now you're coming onto staff, and while you're not an athlete, you're not the head coach. There's still your coach, but you're still head coach, and this is the head coach you used to revere, and like, oh, he's the head coach. How did you
Mhm.
get over the transition of athlete Justin Potter to him? That was your role for years, and now your role is assistant coach. I'm here to help him and be on his staff, and we're working together. How did, I mean, I feel like that's can be difficult.
Yeah, I mean, of course, because you think there's things you probably could have done or they could have done. Things would have been different. But no, I don't. There was no. It was probably the most seamless thing I've ever been through.
You had separation, which I think is helpful, right? So you went to
Yeah, yeah.
Lynchburg and you went to
So
Shenandoah and you
five,
come back.
5 years
Yeah,
was
yeah. Like
beautiful. Yeah.
I'm against like graduate like if you would have been at Mount Olive as an athlete and then did a GA at Mount Olive. I'm against that, and for many reasons. One is that struggle and balance with the head coach, but also you're boys with them on Friday because you're on the team, and then on Monday you're coach. It's like, yeah, I don't know that anybody ever.
Yeah.
Everybody who's done that, who's been on this podcast, has said, yeah, I probably could have done it better. Like everybody, no one will tell stories, which is probably better. But everybody says, yeah, I probably could have done that better. It's like, yeah, you're just on their team. You're playing Xbox on Friday, and now you're telling them get in the weight room and you're late. Like, I don't know, man. I feel like there needs to be separation. So I think I love that you had that separation. That probably had to be helpful for that transition.
Yeah, yeah, because obviously, like working with two other people, I was in touch with him the entire time. Um, when I had questions about things, or I didn't feel comfortable going to Doug or Andy about something, I would talk to him and then help get a direction. So it was pretty seamless me coming in, and the new thing was dealing with scholarship money, which is the
Oh
worst thing
yeah,
in the world, right?
yeah, that's right. It's different.
Um, but yeah, that was the biggest thing, just trying to balance, figuring out the financial aid piece.
Yeah.
But Everything else, man, it was smooth. There was no one. There was no one on the team
Mm-hmm.
when I was around.
Right, right, right,
So
right.
there was no connection there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, like I said, it was really seamless for us. So
Pretty, it was was it 5? Were you 3 years at Shenandoah?
yeah, so
So
2 at Lynchburg and 3 at
So
Shenandoah.
5 away, a campus can
Mhm.
change a lot in 5 years, especially a
Oh,
campus in the eyes of a 22-year-old versus a 27, 28-year-old. How was it coming
mhm.
back? Was it like, well, this is kind of a new place, or did you follow
Yeah.
lock and step like this place ain't changed in 5 years?
No, I remember dropping back into town. I'm like, where did that come from? We built that?
Right.
Like, why didn't we have that? Because Mount Olive's not, you haven't been to Mount Olive, but it's not a
Mm,
big place. There's only 6,000 people to live here. And
mm.
luckily, we have an Air Force base about 30 minutes away in
Oh, nice.
Goldsboro. So there's, a huge town right there. So people can say, we're out in the middle of nowhere, but we're an hour from the beach, we're an hour from Raleigh, and we're 15 minutes away from a major city.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So, I came back, I was just like, man, where did these buildings come from? So it was really cool to see the town. And I'm talking about the town, not even the school. The school's
Right.
done awesome. And, we went through COVID and crap. Everybody did. And there's been things that, weren't awesome along the way, but we've just continued to push forward, and we have a great president. And my wife is actually the director of admissions. So that's
Oh,
awesome. So
now that
she,
seems
she
like
has
no conflict of interest at all.
nah, no, not at all. I don't look, I don't mess with her world. Like, I try not to use her because it would be too easy for me to do so.
Sure.
So I don't ask her for anything unless I can't get it from somewhere else, and then I know she'll do it for me. But yeah, I try to stay separated as much as I
Good,
can
good,
with
good.
that. Even
It's
though we definitely work together, but like I said, I try not to use her
how
because she
big?
gets enough of me and Carson every night. So
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. You said the town's roughly 6,000. How many students there at Mount Olive total?
just about, well, on campus about 900 and
Yeah.
some. Hope nobody watches this and gets mad at me for not
Yeah.
knowing that.
So let's
But
call
then,
it.
like, there's probably anywhere from like 1,000 to 1,200 on campus with the commuters and stuff that come
Yeah.
through.
Right.
Yeah,
How many kids you guys got on the team total?
we have 90. Oh God, Earl's gonna yell at me for this. I should know this too.
Yeah. So
97, I think.
roughly 10% of campus is on
Uh-huh.
that team.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, so if I'm walking around campus, 1 out of 10 kids I bump into probably are on the track team.
Yep. Yep.
That's
It's
really
crazy.
cool. That's really
Yeah.
cool. Do you guys have
Yeah.
football?
No.
So you're
No.
the biggest roster.
Yeah. Us, and then I guess lacrosse and
Oh, really?
baseball, maybe. Yeah.
No, baseball's not running 90.
Nah, they don't have 90.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
they
yeah.
have probably the third. I think they
Yeah.
have the third biggest team.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah. Right, 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 right. Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. Earlier you talked about some of your formal, so coaching education, I kind of break into two different avenues. Both are equally as important in my opinion. One is formal and one is what I call informal. Formal being level ones, level twos, USTFCAs, maybe Altus, things like that. Informal is the guys and gals that you call for advice. Hey, I've got this kid, I'm struggling here. Hey, what would you do in this case? We talked about someone like maybe a Larry Judge. Who else? What kind of unofficial coaching education podcast mentors do you have? Like who's your phone of friends?
yeah, yeah. Like I said, Jeff Claves at
Mhm.
UNCW, great friend of mine. Steve Sanchez down at Abilene now. He was at Upstate for a few years.
Mhm.
So he's way far away from me now, so that sucks. But we still call each other every day.
That sounded so like,
um,
oh.
yeah. It is. You know, people are like, "What are y'all going to do when you're not at meets together anymore?" I'm like, "Man, we'll
Oh,
be
so
all right."
you guys are thick as thieves then. That's what I'm hearing. I mean, if people are
Yeah.
asking like,
No,
hey, are you okay?
yeah, no, it's yeah, Steve's been a great friend, and I've helped him and he's helped me many times. And I hope that never ends.
Yeah.
Golly, I could go down a rabbit hole here,
Mhm.
but Denver Davis down at or sorry, up at Bridgewater College,
Mhm. Mhm.
awesome. Like I mentioned Doug earlier, Larry, Mike, um, man, I'm telling you, I'm leaving a ton of people
Yeah,
out
yeah.
here.
No, you're all
Um,
excused. Everybody who thinks they were left out, know that I always put these guys and gals on the spot here. It's not fair what I
yeah,
do, but
yeah,
know that there's a lot. We all know, the good coaches know, I should say that is that, it's not one person. It is, you stand on the shoulders of a lot of great men and women that have poured into you. Some have poured in this much, some have poured in this much, but that culmination is what creates who you are and what you do today. So, yeah. So
Yeah.
you're all forgiven.
There's so many people that, have had, a hand in this process of me growing in the sport and developing myself. So I can't be more thankful for the people that are in my life and,
Oh, that's awesome.
that do contribute to my success. So,
So
another
what?
one I got to mention,
Yep.
is my buddy Tim. He just took the job at Lamar. I don't know if that's been posted actually, but
Well,
it's fine.
this won't post until like 5 weeks from now, so it'll be old news at that
Oh,
point.
okay.
Yeah,
So we got some time.
yeah.
Good,
We got
good,
a
good.
delay. Yeah.
Yeah. So my buddy Tim, like he's been there for, I met him. I met him at national championships, and just hit it off, man, and just been close friends ever since. And
Awesome.
anytime I have a question about something, he literally can just point me in whatever direction I need to be pointed in.
I love it.
He's awesome, man. So I have so many people that I'm thankful for in my life, you know, and it's not just track, right? Like they're legitimately, the people I'm naming are legitimately my friends. They're not just,
Yeah.
hey, my kid sucks at throwing.
Right.
Can you help
Right.
me? It's like, hey man, how's your family? Like,
Yeah.
so it's they're
Community.
important to me. Yeah, everyone that's touched my life is important to me. And I wish I could show more of that to
Yeah.
them every day, but we got a lot of stuff to do. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're going into the 2025 season. What year is this going to be, counting your 2 years of GA? What year coaching is this going to be now?
14,
14?
no, 15. Oh God.
15. That's a lot.
No, it is 14. It is
Four,
14. Sorry. Yeah.
14, still a lot. When you look at, as you're, we're in the fall, you're probably starting to maybe start practice and things like that. And you're going to, you already, all coaches already have next indoor conference in their mind and outdoor conference, things like
Oh yeah.
that. As you take a look at, take a step back and look at 14 years, where do you think you have improved the most from that first year GA to now 14 years of experience? Where do you think, when you look back, like, oh man, I'm pretty proud of how I've improved this aspect of coaching?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think the technical piece, I have such a passion for doing things the right way that over time I've actually had to figure out how to tone that down.
What do you mean by
I
that?
don't know if just because I was super rigid, like I wanted it right now,
Mm,
like that's the mindset that I had. But over the years, I've figured out, hey man, like you can rush this stuff and you can be okay, or you can do this stuff the right way and be really good. I'm trying
mm.
not to.
I'm hearing the word patience.
Yes, yeah, and getting married and ultimately having a kid, man, like that really changed me. And that
Sure.
was like 10 years into coaching. Um, I tell my kids, I was like, I think I've become a little more soft these days. Um, but yeah, I mean, my drive and demeanor is still the same. I literally had to learn how to be more patient with things, and now I care about the technical stuff so much more than what the final number is going to be.
Mm,
Because I know if we take care of those things, the number is going to be there. It just
mm,
depends on what it is. So I think patience is the biggest thing for sure. But I'd love more than anything to say that every part of my life has improved as a coach. Like just being a friend, a dad, um, God, I mean, a husband. Like it's a mentor, to all these kids and stuff. Like every part of my life has gotten better through all my years of coaching, and I cannot be more thankful for the sport, the people I'm around, the kids that work their tail off. Because, like I said, I'm pretty demanding. Because when they tell me a goal, when anyone tells me a goal, my goal is to hit that goal,
mm,
and then let's do some more. So there's never like for me, I don't try to make a true finish line.
mm,
Right? Does that make sense?
mhm,
Like it's always about like, okay, when we do this, like let's do this, right? And
mhm.
it might be their ultimate goal is to throw 50 meters in a hammer. No, man, I want to throw 52 meters, right? Like things like that. So, I guess never being satisfied, right?
Mm.
Like I remember, golly, man, it was the best day of my life, right? Like national championships. My girl, Danny, she brilliant, man, brilliant thrower. And she's going to keep training with the javelin, try to hit USA's. But I think she was sitting 18th on her third throw at nationals, and just hadn't quite put it together yet. And man, she went out there and PR'd by 2 meters through 49.19. And
Dude,
I mean, if you can watch the video online, you hear me. But like as soon as we got done, right, we went over there and she got her trophy and stuff, and it was one of the best days of my coaching career. I looked at Earl and I was like, we got to get ready to do this again next year, man. It was literally immediately.
Yeah.
Like I as soon as I got done celebrating, I was moving on because I was trying to prepare myself for what was next. So yeah, just that little piece there, and I could tell you so much stuff about Danny and her season and how she grew. There's stuff online, you can check it out, but man, it was the best season of my career for sure. But as soon as it ended, man, bam, when's the next one?
I know. So a couple things to unpack there. One is I love that word patience, especially for a track coach, because, my experience with hanging out with track coaches and practice and things like that, isn't that like one of the big cues or a makeup of a lot of cues of all your throws? Like, patience, don't rush out of the back, patience, keep the arm back, patience, stay in front of the ball or what, it's like, it's so funny how, you preach this daily in your practice, and then you're like, oh, wait a minute, I need that as well on how I'm coaching, whether it's, quick, immediate results or long-term results. I need to take that step back as well. Just interesting that patience from a throws coach. And it's like, dude, you say that word 1,000,000 times a day in practice. You're preaching that to your kids.
Oh yeah, that word, that T word is a primary source of my life.
Yeah, of pain sometimes too. I get it. I get it. As you're, we talked about 2025 season is, it'll be here tomorrow. You talk about, the javelin sticks in the ground and you get the 2-meter improvement and you're immediately like, okay, what about next year? We're our own worst enemy on that too, sometimes I believe, but what's got you excited as you're looking into this next year of Mount Olive, the success you guys had last year, your continued improvement as a coach and a human? What's got you excited there looking forward here in the future?
Well, my son started soccer practice.
Oh,
so
man.
that's huge. Yeah, he started soccer.
Wait, he's turning 3, you said?
Yeah.
In soccer practice at 3. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Lord, that's not soccer. That's just running around. Oh, my Lord.
I'm telling you. I put some video online. We're going to see. No, he's awesome, man. He loves it and he's having fun. And
good.
There's difficult times, but yeah. But anyway, about the team, man, like, oh, man, I think I got one of the best recruiting classes I've ever had. I said the same thing last year. I said the same thing the year before that, probably. But this one truly is awesome, man. I've got some kids coming in that are just unbelievable. That they're coming to Mount Olive is wild to me still.
Yeah, that's cool.
We got the #1 hammer thrower in Division II coming here and transferred over.
Wow.
So our goal is to break giveaways record.
Yeah,
so
good luck. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna do it, coach.
Awesome.
But yeah, so just unbelievable talent, man. It's across the board. Got Disc Store coming from Virginia, who was third at New Balance, and just an absolute monster.
Yeah,
monster. The ladies coming in, golly, man. I think the 2 girls I have coming in might have more potential than the 2 guys I just told you about.
dude.
So yeah, no, it's awesome, man. I'm just, I'm living a good life right here and coaching my tail off, and I cannot wait to see what we do this year, man. It's going to be awesome. Cool. It's going to be special. It'll be special. So
I'm excited for you. You've done a great job and you continue to do a great job. And, what's interesting to me, to use a track analogy, I'm not very good at a throws analogy with this one. So bear with me. You've been coaching now for 14 years, and it's easy at your age and stage to think like, man, I've done a lot, and you have, but to start thinking like, oh, like I'm winding down, I've hit the top, and my, not that your career is going down like quality of athletes that you're coach, but more of like, oh, like, it's only so many years you can coach, those kind of things. Bro, you are, let's use the 400-meter dash. You are barely at the start line. And that's a good thing. Like you know, at 14 years of coaching, 35 years of age, you know, I think that we said this before we hit record, you know, I talked about 30 more years. Like well, that's 65, that's retirement age. So you literally, if you think about it this way, if we say you're going to coach for 30 years, and you may coach for longer than 30 years, but if you only coach for 30 more years, that's 2 more cycles of what you've done. You've coached, let's call it 15. You're going to coach that 2 more times.
Man, is that a good
That's
way of looking at it?
called perspective. It is,
Yeah, yeah.
because a guy like you who likes constant improvement, you're a technical guy, so you have to always be, you know, what's next, what's the how do I
Mhm.
teach this, how do I say this differently because this kid will hear it differently, how does this work for this kid who's 6'8" and this kid's 4'8"? You know, you're always improving. That means you've got 30 more years to continue to get better.
I know, that's crazy, man.
That's the cool thing,
And
man. That's the real cool
and I'm
thing.
gonna, yeah, and I think I have a problem with these kinds of things actually.
Mhm.
Um, I don't mean to be negative,
No, you're good.
but like I plan on growing every single day,
Mhm.
continuing to learn and figure out what's next. And like you said, like that is my, if I don't do that, then I won't be coaching anymore.
Right.
So I don't. So sometimes when, like, people tell me they're not going to go do, some coaching education stuff, it bothers me sometimes because it's like, dude, take a chance to like help yourself improve because you're going to improve a lot.
Mhm.
But think about what you're going to be able to provide for your kids and everybody you're working with.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's and I don't mean to be negative at all. I see it all the time. And I
He-
just think
he-
we must continue to be a student of our own sport
Here's a
or we're never
challenge.
gonna.
Here's a challenge you are either going to have, or you have had it, or maybe you could take a perspective, interest perspective here, and maybe you're in it now. So a very similar what you're expressing to myself when I was coaching, and also now today in the business world. So I am constantly, you know, what's the newest book to read to become a better servant for my coaches?
Mhm.
What's the next technology to learn to help our, you know, to do manufacturing better, things like that. And I got to, and this was through coaching as well, but a few years ago, probably, you know, 10, you know, I'm just knee deep in everything. You know, what's the next book? What's the next book? What's the next book? And I can't remember where I saw this advice, but I'd probably seen it before, but sometimes, you know, you just need to hear the same thing at different stages of your life. And it just,
Mhm.
whenever this was and whatever it was, it hit me at the right time. And it talked about, you know, over learners, like people just, you know, constantly learn, I'm constantly getting better. A big part of getting better is the application of what you've learned. And some of us become, and I was this way, serial learner. So we're always learning, but because we're always learning, we're not putting it into application and learning, well, how did that work out? What would I tweak? What
Mhm.
would I do differently? How should I have done it? What can I add to it, et cetera? So for you, again, thinking about, you know, there's 30 more years at least ahead of you. So 2 more coaching lifetimes that you've done now. uh,
It's crazy.
the challenge for you, I believe, might be what's the next thing? What's the next coaching education to go to? What's the next thing to go to? You're going to have to take that breath, I think, take that step back and say, okay, let me coach for 2, 3, 4 seasons, whatever it is. You know, there's no time frame of touch it. Let me put all these things that I've learned and am learning into application and evaluate that. Iterate,
Mhm.
like, oh, okay, I remember I learned this from Larry, and you know what, that doesn't work for me in this situation, so I need to go over here and do this thing. And I like that, you know, I heard Mike say this one time, and maybe, and again, when you hear it is always that, you know, there's guys that you listen to and they say the same thing over and over, and that's good because where you are today is going to be different than where you are 10 years from now. The athletes are going to be different, et cetera. So you may just need to hear the same thing in a different emotional state or a different educational state. So the challenge to you is going to be not getting enough coaching education, you know, improvement. It's going to be taking
Mhm.
that step back and being okay with, hey, you know what, I haven't gone to call it a formal coaching education in 3 years, and that's good because I've been, I hate to use the word grind. I've been coaching. I've been applying it and learning from it. And now when I go back to go listen to a talk by Mike or Larry or Dan or whoever, And again, they're probably, you know, the guys like that are saying the same thing over and over again. And I mean that in a positive way. Now you hear it in a different way because now you have different experiences as well. So that's just something to think about, because I really do like using that track analogy of, like, you know, if this is the 400-meter dash, you're barely on the starting line, because again, a lot of people, you're in the muck, you're in the day to day. You just had a recruiting call last night. Maybe you got practice this afternoon, a staff meeting tomorrow. You know, you're in the muck of it right now. My role as the track coach advocate is to kind of help you see the step back and be like, look, dude, you've got 2 more lifetimes to go. I know it seems like, man, I've done 14 years is a lot. That's more than I coached 10 years at the, you know, so which is a lot. You've done 40% more than that. And I'm still telling you, you're a pup, you're a babe. And I mean that in a positive way. You know what I'm saying? And that should excite you, because you're doing such amazing things today at 14. Well, golly, what are you going to do at year 20? How good are your kids going to be in year 25?
Yeah.
And even better, when we start talking about legacy and what is your real fingerprint on the sport, I shouldn't say your real fingerprint, your bigger fingerprint on the sport is how many people are coaches from your tree. How many people, not only just athletes that go on, your athletes that go on to coach, because, you know, it'll be this many, not everybody's going into coaching, but when I'm doing this podcast in 10 years and I'm talking to coach so-and-so and they go, yeah, you know who I rely on? Man, Justin Potter, that dude I can call and we'll just talk. And he has a way of just telling me about how to think things in my head. Or, you know, I heard him speak at USTFCA and I was like, oh man, I didn't realize that I also could coach the javelin. I kind of threw the javelin to the side because it's such a different event. And he showed me how to work all 4 throwing events. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where year 30, 40, et cetera, comes in to perspective of what you know, legacy that you leave in this profession, in this sport.
Yeah, it's crazy to you put it like that. It's just crazy to think about, you know, that there literally is 2 more lifetimes at least that I can continue to do this and grow and help people. Like, and I didn't think of that.
Bro,
You know,
I'll hit
this is
you with,
like, this is what I do. And
I'll
yeah,
hit you
it's
with
just
one more. Your son's about to turn 3. One more lifetime from now, meaning 15 years. So that'll be double. You'll be a 30-year veteran of coaching. Your son will barely be graduating high school.
yeah.
You're still in the muck
Dang.
of being a dad, going to, are they going to go to college? Are they a thrower? Are they a baseball player? And you're 30. I mean, think about right now, think about coaches, you know, that have coached for 30 years. Those are revered guys and gals. Like, whoa, man,
Oh, yeah.
when I call Susie and she's on year 30, man, I shut up. She talk, I listen, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be you, and your kid's going to be 18, barely, meaning you still got another 15 years. So that's why I say you're at the beginning of it. And that is so, so exciting.
Yeah,
There's
it's
so
crazy.
much.
I would have never thought about it like that.
I can't wait to see. I wish coach, I mean, and I'm sure some coaches do this, and it really kind of, it actually belittles this a little bit, kind of because it puts it down to numbers, and I'm much more on the human aspect of it. But I wish more coaches kept, like, you know how we keep record boards, like Mount Olive has a school record board, right? I wish Justin Potter kept a record board. Here's the best 100-meter dash I ever coached. Because maybe, you know, depending if you ever coach, you know, if you went to high school or something like that. But like, here's your throws. Like, here's the best. Like, you right now, you're like, what did she throw in the javelin? I'm assuming that would be your best javelin thrower you've ever had.
Yeah. 49-19.
Yeah. So right now, 49-19, bro. 15, 20 years from now, you're gonna have a 60-footer or 60-footer. Don't have a 60-footer, 60-meter thrower, and be like, wow, I never, you know, I had that girl throw 49, and that was a big deal. I'm not taking anything away from that, but wow, look, I continued to get better. And because of my experiences with her, by the way, that allowed me to coach a 55-meter and a 60-meter. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's, I think sometimes we just all need to take a step back. Instead of, as soon as that 49-meter touchdown, you're thinking of the next season. I think sometimes we need to allow ourselves to take a step back and be like, kind of both sides. One, wow, like, we worked hard together. We did this. Let's celebrate it. Let's enjoy this. Let's be happy with it. Let's not, I very much dislike when it's like, yeah, you know what though, if this would have happened, she could have thrown 50. It's like, bro, you're taking away, you're belittling it. Be happy with where you are, and now strive for the future, of course, but take that step back for the athlete and for yourself, both professionally and personally, and just realize it's a long game, brother. 30 more years of positive impact on young people is what you have in front of you. And that should excite you, because it excites this guy right here. Excites me. That's for sure.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it, man. This has been eye-opening.
Good.
Sure.
You know, sometimes
Yeah.
we should have called the podcast the Gill Psychology Sit on the Couch Connections Podcast, because, you know, my passion is you, Justin. It is the men and women who choose to be track coaches. And, you know, I say this, I think sometimes people think I'm, you know, it's a fluff piece when I say, man, I love the profession of coaching, but man, I meet all these coaches. And I'm like, man, you could have gone on, instead of coaching, you could have grown a business into $1 billion business. You could have been a doctor and cured cancer. Like that's the quality of people that are choosing to do this profession. You're a great example. It's like, man, you could be I don't know anything about baseball. I almost said you could be the next George Steinbrenner. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I just know he's a baseball guy from Seinfeld or something. But you could, you know, like you could have gone on to baseball. You could be in the major leagues making millions right now, right? And I'm so glad for our sport and our profession that you chose track and field. Like that's what excites me. And so I want to make sure that I'm a piece of helping you understand the big part of the puzzle, not just the 2025 season. It's this much of your entire career. It's important, but there's a big picture, and that picture includes that little boy, your wife, your family. You know, that's the bigger picture. And I love that this sport and this profession has given you an avenue to support them and help them to help him grow his dreams, and your wife as well. That's magical. That's what's so great about this profession.
Yeah, I'm blessed, man. That's all I can say.
Amen.
Everybody, like I said earlier, everybody's touched me in my career. Like, I'm blessed for them, and I'm blessed to have my family.
I love it, man. I love it. Well,
yeah.
I told you when I invited you onto the show, you know, one thing is to uplift and honor what you've done, and you've done an amazing job. And I'm excited to see what the book is still being written. So I'm excited to see the future chapters here and what you accomplish. But, you know, your story, there are people that are listening right now that this story has helped. That this, you know, showing you, I really do love that you didn't do track in high school. Kind of wish you would have, because, you know, it's a great sport. But I love that someone right now you know, we have a pretty decent young audience here as well. That someone right now maybe is like, you know, they're interested in track, or maybe they come across this, they've never done it, and they go, wait a minute, this dude didn't do track, and he's pretty successful. Maybe I can coach track and field, and we get another coach into the fold, man. So your story, your journey matters. And I'm just so grateful that you would sit down with us and spend time and share it with it in a very open, humble, and authentic way that you did, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. This was awesome. Like I said, it helped me see some things differently, and hopefully some of my stuff can help someone else. So.
It will. No doubts. No doubts. So thank you again for being here, man. Thank you guys for being here once again. We're in the middle-ish, getting, you know, towards the third quarter of the fifth season. We've got some amazing things coming up for you. We're going to continue to go out there, and you know, the goal is kind of like Pokemon. It's to catch them all. It's to get every coach, high school, college, professional, club, everyone on the podcast. I only get 52 a year, so it's going to take me a while, but you know, he talked about goals earlier. Well, that's my goal. We're just going to keep going at it 1 week at a time. So join us next week. We'll do it all over again and have some fun. Have a good week, everybody.
Thanks, guys.